Hi there, Steve Coffin here. Today I want to talk about a subject that comes up from time to time. It's kind of two subjects in one. I often get asked, can we learn more than one language at the same time? And another question is, how difficult is it to learn related or similar languages? Well, first of all, I'm going to follow this video with a video where I speak in both Ukrainian and Russian with subtitles. I had someone familiar with both languages provide us with subtitles, so I'm putting those up. And you can hear the differences between Ukrainian and Russian. Obviously, if you study a language that's similar to a language that you already know, you have a tremendous advantage because chances are the vocabulary is going to be similar, the grammar is going to be similar. And obviously, as I've said many times, the more similar a new language is to a language you already know, the easier it is. So I'm struggling with Arabic right now, where there are practically no cognates. There are no words that I recognize from other languages. Maybe when I go to study Farsi, I'll see some Arabic words in the Farsi, and that might help me. So the more similar they are, the better. But there are some traps. Okay, first of all, you can't assume that you just kind of tweak your Spanish and you'll have Portuguese. When I first went at Portuguese, I tried that. I bought a book on the differences between Spanish and Portuguese in terms of vocabulary and stuff like that. And it really didn't help me that much. Because those obvious differences where they say, this in Spanish and that in Portuguese, that's a small percentage of the vocabulary. You actually have to get used to using all of the language and understanding all of the language. So just zooming, at least this was my experience, just trying to shortcut the process by just picking out those few words that are different and then pretending you're speaking in this other language. I found that it didn't work. I spent some time on some Portuguese phrases in this living language course that I bought, and I listened a lot, jogging around and listening, and went to Portugal, and people just switched to English. I couldn't really communicate. I didn't know what they were saying. So the second time I went at it, much more thoroughly link style, lots of listening and reading, immersing myself into the language, sort of projecting myself as a speaker of Portuguese. And then I was able to do much better. And it really didn't matter whether I was listening to Brazilian Portuguese or Portuguese. I was putting myself into another language environment. And we have many members here at Link who are Portuguese. Probably more Brazilian. Probably we have more Portuguese speakers than Spanish speakers. I don't know for sure. But they, of course, want to learn Spanish, and sometimes I get questions about that. And I always say, the big thing is don't kind of hang back in the comfort of your Portuguese pronunciation. The same is true in reverse, of course. Try to project yourself as an Argentinian or a Colombian or a Spaniard or something. Try to really project yourself into that environment. So the same with the Slavic languages. The first Slavic language I learned was Russian, obviously, and I spent a lot of time with Russian. Then I did Czech. And then I came to Ukrainian, and even Polish. And by the way, this morning, I had a 1-hour chat with a Polish tutor from Italki in Polish. We spoke in Polish. Now, I am sure that a significant percentage of the words I used were either Ukrainian or Czech or Russian, but we were communicating. That's another advantage when you are in closely related languages. If the goal is communication, in a way, it doesn't matter if you're mixing Spanish with Portuguese or Italian or Polish with Ukrainian or Russian. People are going to understand you. So if the main goal is to communicate, and of course you understand them because you've studied those languages, so your comprehension is usually a lot better than your ability to deliver the language, but you're still able to communicate. But the funny thing is, again, I'm kind of rambling a bit here, but the funny thing is that I felt in my Polish conversation that while I probably made more mistakes than the last time I spoke Polish, the overall experience was easier because I had, in the intervening period, had studied Ukrainian, so that my comfort level with Slavic languages in total was higher. So I felt quite comfortable. And I would throw out a word, and if it's teraz in Polish and zaraz in Ukrainian or vice versa, I can't remember half the time. It didn't matter because we were communicating and I felt comfortable. And so feeling comfortable and confident is extremely important in learning any language. But I guess where I want to come to in all this is there has to be a desire to learn that other language. There has to be a desire to become one of them. And very often you see people, speakers of similar languages, and particularly native speakers, who don't force themselves. And I listened to a lot of Portuguese podcasts, and I would hear Portuguese people speak Spanish, and they would try to speak Spanish like Spaniards, and they sounded Spanish. And very often I would hear Spanish people who would probably change a few words. Hablar became falar, and dizer instead of decir, and that was about it. But for the rest of the time, they were just speaking Spanish. So, and I've noticed, for example, Mandarin speakers who move to Vancouver, let's say, young people, young kids who want to connect with Cantonese speakers here in Vancouver, they learn in no time, because actually if the language is that close, you can learn. But older people, they simply don't want to let go of their Mandarin, of the pronunciation, of the comfort, and so they will just speak Mandarin or Spanish or Russian. And typically it's the more dominant language group that is unwilling to project itself into that, call it, less widely spoken language group. So I guess to summarize, it's a tremendous advantage to learn related languages. Easy to confuse them, but it doesn't matter because you're still communicating, in my view. But you should force yourself to make a special effort to get out of the comfort zone of the language where you are stronger, in order to really penetrate, immerse yourself, get into, sound natural in the next language within that language group. And it is fun. I've done, they're not the same language family, but Chinese helped me with Japanese, helped me with Korean, obviously the Slavic languages. I was able to go from one to the next to the next. If I ever wanted to learn Danish or Norwegian, it would be a piece of cake. But if I did it, I would go for the Danish pronunciation. I wouldn't try to say a few Danish words with a Swedish accent. I would totally go for it. And the same, of course, is true for Romance languages, and that's why, for example, Romanian I was able to learn fairly quickly. But I left my Italian behind me. I became Romanian. So there it is, a bit of a ramble on learning related languages, and now you can hear me in Ukrainian and Russian, neither of which I spent a lot of time at over the last year or two, but you'll certainly get the sense that my Russian is stronger than my Ukrainian, and my Russian creeps into my Ukrainian. Okay, thank you for listening. Bye for now.